I don't know if any of you, I don't know, Batman. I don't know if you saw Hype's post recently about trying to keep with the like founding aesthetics of SPX. What's the overarching theme, and return to our roots a bit more. I don't know if you've seen that post, but we're going to talk about that a bit.
I actually did see that post, and I agree with him. The OG content is what got the community here to begin with. And if a machine runs a certain way, you want to keep the machine running that way to let it run smoothly. So I agree with the take. I do believe that the content should be going back to ways that he
Jeffrey,
said.
what did you think? Did you see that post?
Yeah, I saw his original video on Twitch, and then I just saw the post today, kinda. But I read Spacey's summary instead. But I kind of, I watched his whole Twitch video through, right? So I kind of understood what he was saying, and some of his examples and stuff. And I do think that, the older aesthetics were very unique and kind of, more sticky, as they say, right? Sticky memetics, but also to what he said, as well as what Krishna touched on, like propagating the creators to work with like someone like Seb, right? Like, why do we have Seb out there with some whack ass sandwich board, right? He should have some cool SPX art, and that's kind of like an example Hype had in his video on Twitch. He made that example. He's like, yo, Seb, I love Seb. He's like, but why do we have Seb out here with this boring sandwich board? Like, like we got to we should have creators make a design for Seb, but like we got to work together more in that aspect. So
yeah, that is true. I agree.
But yeah, it was but yeah, that's kind of.
I think as this movement begins, like everybody's kind of finding their area of how they want to contribute, and everybody's trying to do everything on their own, and then at a certain point we have to come together and coordinate. Like, I'm not gonna make memes. I'm not gonna make those crazy ass Hype or Arcane Vault videos. Like, it's just not within my wheelhouse. What I can do is I'll go on camera and I'll talk. I'll just talk and be myself and my perspective about SPX. And I have a background. If there's some art that can be put up there, I'm glad to put it. I do plan on creating some videos too and put on my YouTube, whatever banner or bottom or anything in my frame that's artwork related to SPX. Like, I would love to have that on there, and I just focus on what I do. And like, as Chad is doing what he's doing, and as we get like cohesive in that element, I think we'll be able to push it to the next level. So I think Hype was the first one to just kind of vocalize his frustrations, but I think Seb is going to keep Seb can only do what he can do. He had to make the sandwich board based on what he knows. If somebody gave him a board, he would definitely use that.
I feel like that's the next step that Hype was essentially saying that we need to take, right? It's like, all right, now like everyone's been kind of just doing their own thing, and it's been like the beauty of it, right? But there's also ways we need to coordinate better, and ways that we can. So, but yeah, it was interesting. I didn't, like I said, I didn't read the full detail, but I watched this whole video. So yeah, I watched this whole video. So I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure I know what he's saying. So
yeah, I think that's all good points. The only I guess critique I had of it is I don't want it to come across as if somebody wants to create something like what's the word? Like you're gatekeeping. Like you have to make it this way, or it's not, or we're going to criticize you. I don't want people to feel that way. I want people to give it a go, try, and see, and maybe they can think of something that's cool that sort of fits. Maybe doesn't fit. Maybe we wouldn't traditionally think of it as fitting in the aesthetic, but
he was also talking how like when you use the AI, it kind of pushes more towards like that cypherpunk, like that like matrixy theme, right? Like that that digital spiritual mix realm. Like the AI kind of does that itself, and he was just kind of saying how that doesn't help the situation, right? Like when we try and use those tools, it's kind of what gets pushed into it, because that's like what they're designed to kind of focus on, I guess. But yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think a couple other points he said was, do we have to PvP each other for attention? And that was, I think what he means is, everybody's posting things,
Right.
and everybody only has a limited amount of attention. So in a sense, it's PvP, but I don't see. I guess I don't. There's no solution for that. It's just like the only thing I can think of is be discerning as much as you can.
I think that might be going back to what they're trying to do with like the main account and like promoting the right, the right content that they want to, that we need to promote, I guess, in certain ways. But because like big accounts, like, they will have more reach and kind of whatever they say gets pushed, right? So might not be the perfect, whatever. So that hinders the message as well, I guess, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
I think his biggest example is like the DCA, thing you've even seen today. Like Chang just even posted a thing, right? It was like whatever DCA or Memetics, and it's like, his example was like Maddox's account so big, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's just posting DCA content, like everyone's just posting DCA content, where it's like, the artists are posting their content, but like they're not getting anywhere because they just don't have a big account, which, not like trying to, I think he's just bringing up a relative point, of what's going on. So, not to like be combative and stuff, I think he's just kind of bringing something to light, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was pretty combative in his X post, at least.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just, I've learned to, because I can be, when I say things, I know I can be like, I can sound a certain way, but I've learned from dealing with other people that you kind of just have to learn how to figure out the message, of what they're trying to say, because, we all know who hype is, right? And people kind of just express themselves. But I think if we can take the message properly, then we'll all just be better for it,
Yeah, he probably
I
should
feel
send
like
his tweets to somebody before he tweets them. But just a thought.
I feel like
it was a little aggressive.
Well, that's why he said Spacey was his PR, right, or something like that.
Yeah, I think there's. I don't think so. I definitely don't think that they're. It's like hype has a perspective and a voice that has a lot of value. And most of the time, and I totally agree with what Jeffrey's saying, is like hype is like an edgy dude. He can come across like pretty strong and combative and stuff, or people can perceive it that way. I think that's just sort of his personality or his communication style, because generally speaking, the message that it seems like he's trying to convey, I feel like I normally agree with like 100%. And yeah.
Okay, what about SPX Man? That doesn't fit the aesthetic whatsoever. And I love SPX Man. Is that okay? That's like how granular we're gonna go.
Right. I think that's part of the thing, is that it's not a matter of being like, it's not a matter of censoring like people that we disagree with their opinion on the aesthetic of SPX. I think the broader message is that hype is one of these original creators and contributors to the aesthetic and to what like SPX has achieved so far. And so in some ways, like he's probably one of the main people that I could see being referenced as being part of this like older aesthetic that we need to get away from to become more palatable to like mainstream marketing techniques, versus like staying true to the art style and the aesthetics and the beliefs and the memetics of everything that's involved there. It's like, do we dilute that for the sake of just being easier to swallow? And his answer is definitely no. And that's probably what my answer would be. Is definitely not. Like never.
But who's pushing that? I haven't seen that. I guess the push to change.
Well, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Well, I think he also brought up in his video, talks about like just like everything like the post Marad like culture and like the 100 billion and just like post like SPX is gonna go to the moon, and it's like some like we said, like some SPX6900 coin from ChatGPT, like what I'm saying. It's just like and those posts get good traction. It's like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, why? Because it's just how Grok works, or X works and stuff. But it's like,
But how do we actually I get the
Well,
concern,
think
but how
that's
do
why
we
they're-
actually change it?
well, I think that's why it talks about using the main account more that way. I think that's why he was trying to get the bangers of the week thing going, to kind of like
Yeah, bangers of the week is good.
find a way to intertwine the aesthetics, within the whole system that we're in essentially
Yeah.
now, because it's all growing, right? So how do we, grow
Maybe
it?
It feels inevitable though that it's going to get diluted. It feels almost inevitable, because as we get more and more people, they're going to post for the hell they want to.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is as this grows bigger, you really it's going to be so big that it won't even people are going to have so many different ways to kind of post that message. So eventually, it's going to get to the point where you really can't even pinpoint and say we want this type of content out. But what should be done is, I think the main page should repost that type of content. So that way, if anyone's looking up SPX, they see that directly, and then anybody else can just kind of post what they think. Because I feel like the whole point of this is, I don't know, everybody has their own type of skill and everybody is creative in their own way, and I don't want to limit or cap anybody in that type of direction. So if you kind of let everybody go their own way, but then let that home SPX app page kind of highlight that OG type of aesthetic content, then I think that's kind of how you get two birds in one stone.
That's a part of what the issue is, right? You look up SPX6900 and you find a rocket ship with the balloon, with a coin on it.
Yeah, that's
instead
true.
of, but like you're saying, that's what you want to find, right? You want them to boost the right aesthetic, right? And hopefully that when you search for it, that's what you find. So that's I mean,
that's true.
I think really we all have to. I feel like the only way to really combat it in a real way is, I agree, posting the main content will definitely help, but we all have to be very discerning, because we have so much content now. We're not limited on content anymore. Like before, it was like, oh, there's something, was anything, but now it's like we have so much. You really need to. You don't just need to like and repost and talk about every little post. You have to really think about it. I feel like it's the only way you can actually do it to any, at least from my perspective. I will say, and this is another counterpoint, and he's on next week too, so this will be really good to talk about. But just a counterpoint that I thought about is, what if we don't want that to be a bottleneck necessarily either? Because if we have to have that aesthetic, then we're going to be totally dependent on hype and folks like that.
I think that it's not a matter of saying we're not going to change and evolve over time. I think it's saying, hey, we're going to intentionally start changing our aesthetic to be more palatable for mainstream, normies or whatever. And that seems dumb. The natural evolution of aesthetics changing and people experimenting and SPX man, all of the different stuff is fine, and let the quality rise to the top. But to go out of our way to be hey, hype, we're gonna stop highlighting your aesthetic so much because it's a little bit edgy for the common folk or whatever, that seems like a mistake.
Okay,
that I agree with. Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
So it's not a matter of it being a bottleneck or are we going to start censoring artists?
It felt that way. It felt that post made me feel that way.
And I think that's what he's essentially saying is don't censor the artists who have contributed deeply to the memetics of this movement because you think it's not normie friendly enough.
Who's doing that though?
I've never heard that before. But
I think there's some inside baseball that I don't know about.
Could be the case,
and I don't know about that.
Right.
But I guess for the most simple example, there's also there might be that, but the simple example I can think of was everyone gets mad about the old logo and the new logo, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
Some people, they might not even understand, like you said, they might not understand the old memetics. They might just be in because Murad was hey, come on in, and that's what they watch. They just watch Murad, right? They think the other stuff's weird and stupid.
Or a Seb video. A Seb video has got nothing to do with it.
I don't, So
I mean, there's tons of other content that have nothing to do with the aesthetics now, and that could have brought.
I don't think
someone
he's
in.
saying that's bad, right? But like he's saying, like Seb IRL, like why don't we have him a dope ass, sign out?
That
Like,
would be a bit better.
that's what I'm
but-
saying. Like we
yeah.
obviously we
Right.
love, we need more of that stuff. Like but.
Well, it
One
was a
second, guys, I'm
it
sorry.
was I don't the post was a little confusing to me. I think you could take it in a bad way, which I kind of did. But every time he's ever done this, I've taken offense to. This is about his third time doing it. Let's be real. Every time he's done it, I've been a little annoyed.
Every time Hype talks, you just get like a little bit more annoyed.
No, but I think his opinion is extremely valid, and I think I've said this before. That kind of content is foundational SPX content that shouldn't be
Right.
fucked with, and we should keep pushing it for people who are able to.
Right.
But where I kind of differ a little bit is I just don't want it to see as gatekeep because I want us to make as much as we can and let the market determine
Right.
it. But that's where it sounded like he was saying, well, we're potentially rewarding sociopathic extroverts is how he labeled it. But how do you stop that? Like if somebody creates like if somebody goes out and acts like a total asshole and talks about SPX and it does extremely well, I don't see how you stop it. That's the only thought
It's
I had.
not a matter of stopping, but there is still an element of like the memetic element of like what are you what is the collective average Aeon engaging with?
Yeah.
And propagating and like putting it on display for the rest of the world and the rest of people who are seeing this content now that the stuff that we give the most likes to or reposts to, like, does it fit and highlight the important aspects of SPX and the culture? And that's the stuff that we should be, fighting to keep relevant. And I can totally see Hype's problem because Hype will spend months potentially working on video and it gets less views than, like you said, like someone just doing something random or dumb, and it's like maybe a big account reposts it and then it gets reposted, and then a lot of quality stuff falls through the cracks, not necessarily because of any one person's fault, but again, it does come back to that, like, we all kind of have this like individual responsibility to try to highlight the best parts of SPX and the most compelling and the deepest and the most relevant.